Yahya Cholil Staquf, known respectfully in Indonesia as Pak Yahya. You are Secretary General of the world's largest Muslim organization based in Indonesia, Nahdlatul Ulama, with all the great concerns of an organization numbering, I believe, hundreds of millions or over 100 million people. Yeah. You also have time to engage in educational activities in a madrasa that you run generations in your family. So we have, on the one hand, broad organizational international vision, on the other hand, very specific, attentive educational vision and your own spirituality. So wonderful context to be talking to you all the way in Indonesia. It's Ramadan, it's past midnight. Thank you for making the time for this conversation.
You're welcome. Welcome. And thank you for the invitation.
So maybe we begin by asking where am I meeting you in terms of your own process? I know, and I guess viewers of this interview will also know, that it's been hard to secure this appointment because you've been on a period of retreat for some time leading up to Ramadan. Yeah. And it was only now that you finally confirmed the interview. And this interview was itself a preparation for you coming into Ramadan and taking place while the whole world is struggling with the COVID-19 crisis. So where does your own process and its lessons and your own personal spiritual movement meet this very moment, both on the Islamic calendar and in the world situation?
Well, with Ramadan, this is in Islam, it's a time for Muslim actually to contemplate more about each person's relationship with God. This is the opportunity for us Muslims to do it. And as addition to it, we have this Corona situation. So this is actually a very there is a strong push for us to go back to ourselves, how we perceive our religion, how we perceive God, and our relationship with God personally. Because in normal situation, in other days, I would say most of us tend to perceive our religion as communal identity more than a personal spirituality. This is actually, this situation puts us in circumstance where we can focus more on our personal spirituality.
What do you mean when you say this tension between group identity and personal spirituality? Obviously, you're thinking about it in the Muslim context. It means one thing to you. It may mean something else to people in another context. What does it mean to you? What are the specifics? How does it play out, this tension between collective identity and personal spirituality?
Well, when we perceive religion as a communal identity, there's a possibility when people use this identity for to justify tensions between different identities or even conflict or so forth. Now, as we focus on our own personal spirituality, then we have to dig more about the meaning of living in God and in religion. And then with this Corona situation, we realize that this is a situation that everybody is facing, regardless different identities that we have. So in this situation, our identity is irrelevant because Muslim and non-Muslim, the Jews, Christians, and other people of religions, we are facing the same thing and the same fate together in this world because nobody can run away from the impact of this situation. So now, while we need to, people of believers, people of religion need to focus on each personal spirituality, we need to contemplate also how we need to see, how we see the whole human civilization globally. We need to think more, contemplate more also about the meaning of our humanity.
What I hear you saying then is that the collective identity actually serves as a barrier in relationship to other groups, and simultaneously discover our individual identity in relation to God opens us up to other and opens us up to other religions. Let me ask you something. Do you see this tension between collective identity and individual spirituality as particularly an issue for Islam in the world today? Let me explain the context for this question.
Okay.
Many years ago, I ran a project called the Crisis of the Holy, and we convened various scholars of different religions to explore what are the difficulties that each religion is facing. And the Muslim presentation that was presented by a scholar, you may know him, Vincent Cornell of Emory University. He spoke about the problem of corporate Islam, how Islam, through privileging Sharia, ends up emphasizing collective identity at the expense of personal spirituality, at the expense of Sufism, at the expense of philosophy, and that in fact this is part of the problem of global Islam today. And when you talk about this tension, I'm reminded of this project that we were engaged in, and therefore I'd like to ask you, is this something that you simply see as something that all religions have this issue, or do you see this tension between communal or corporate identity and personal spirituality really as a problem that's very particular and specific to Islam, and possibly one of the core issues that Islam has to address in the world today?
The religion, including Islam, as collective identity, the possibility, of religion as collective identity being used as a justification for conflict is something that we inherit from our history. In the past, what happened was conflict between different identities, including religion. Now, we are entering a different civilizational reality where it is the borders, physical and social borders are becoming more and more irrelevant. So we need to adjust, including to adjust our mindset, the mindset of the believers, how we can keep our faith to a specific religion, but we need to also think about how we can live together and nurture our civilization together, because we are going toward a more unified global civilization now, unlike in the past. So everything happened in one place will affect, all of humanity. So this is a new reality, the way I see it. So we need to pay more attention on it, including in developing new discourse within our religion. What we inherit from the jurisprudence and norms related to Sharia in the past was things that are related to the context of the previous civilizational context. Now we are facing new context of reality, so we need to rethink about everything.
So this raises the question of the particular brand of Islam that's practiced in Indonesia and the particular brand of Islam that your movement represents. In what way is your movement positioned, or is Indonesian form of Islam positioned to help Muslim civilization more broadly, maybe I can use the word integrate or find its place, not in a competitive way, but in a unified way with other religions? In other words, what I hear you appealing for is a God-centered human fraternity where everyone finds his place together in a global civilization. So in what way, if that's a correct way of hearing you, in what way does your particular form of Islam help advance such a vision?
Yeah, what is dominant in the historical dynamics of Islam in Indonesia since the beginning, when Islam entered this particular area, is a proof that an Islamic civilization actually can possibly raise and grow without exclusivity, without a supremacist without a supremacist model of social system. So here in Indonesia, since the beginning, Islam has been growing as just one among others, one religion among others, and people just live together harmoniously without using different religious identities as a reason to have conflicts between each other. And it is proven possible here in Indonesia. So, and if we think about the reality that we are entering, we are going toward a more unified global civilization. I think this is a relevant lesson, that people in other places can learn and have a conviction that in the future we simply do need a monolithic, social system based on religious identity anymore, because people can just live together with different identities whatsoever, peacefully and harmoniously.
So COVID-19 is an opportunity to understand this deeper. How does this translate into the educational work that you're doing? I mean, what messages do you give your students during this COVID crisis in line with this spirit of universal brotherhood and solidarity that you're describing?
Yeah, first, we come to this situation actually with less knowledge about the nature of this of the disease, this pandemic. What is the risk that we are facing, and so forth. And so, in our education, we educate our students to not just have the knowledge about the norms and the formal norms and values of religion, but also we train them to contemplate and meditate, to have a personal connection with God. So we, in this situation when there is less engagement with other people, our student can have more time to practice their discipline of meditation and contemplation. So that's one thing, and within that, there is a very significant core value, which is that everything actually happens under the will of God, including this situation, this Corona situation, and nothing that God will to happen is a waste. So there must be a meaning of this situation. That's what we need to go deeper with. This is I tell my students that this is the opportunity for us to have proof about our faith. That if we are truly sincere in believing, then there must be a proof from God, for toward solution to all this, to the situation that we are facing now.
So the spiritual orientation is being tested, and the process is growing in faith. So Corona is a test, and it's time for growing in faith, and that's why it's suitable for Ramadan, because Ramadan is a time to grow in faith.
Right.
So have you come up so far with any insight on why this is happening, or the proof is only going to be there when we find the vaccine or the medication? Do you have?
Yeah.
You're contemplating. Anything you can share already from your contemplation?
Yeah, this is, so far, I would say, because I'm still in the process, because there is no final term to an endeavor, to a spiritual endeavor. So far, what I would say is that this is just something happened with Mother Nature, like other things. Sometimes, flood happens, and maybe earthquake and so forth, and now Corona. It's just something happened with Mother Nature, and we human beings, as inhabitants of this nature, simply have to accept it and live with it. And there may be various consequences of the situation if we truly believe in God. If our faith is truly sincere to God, then we will have a complete conviction that there will be a way out, for us from the situation. So, and also that if we truly sincere in our belief in God, then we will come uh, to a conviction that God will guard us. God is always guarding us from any uh, from any dangers. So, for example, I also encourage my students, to go out checking our neighbors, if there are among them who needs help and support. So they go around, and for example, in our village, we have uh, like 12 families who are really in very hard situation that need support. So then we mobilize uh, support for them, something like that. So I encourage my students also uh, not to just you know stay and disconnect themselves from people, but uh, you know keep having uh, you know care about others. Of course, with uh, proper attention to the parameters that the doctors told us, like keeping a distance, uh, uh, wearing a mask and so forth, and actually uh, it works well. It works well here. So
Great. That's great to hear. Let's go back to faith.
mhm,
This corona situation creates many challenges, many faith
mhm,
challenges. Um, Maybe we could take a few moments to look at some of the challenges posed by corona to faith. Um,
mhm,
One of them is that people are fearing and panicking.
mhm,
How does faith, as you understand it, or in fact, maybe as a collective identity, Islam can't help a
mhm.
person with faith, maybe only a personal relationship, but what does one need to have a personal relationship that would allow you to overcome fear and anxiety?
Well, first, this is a situation that we cannot avoid. It comes to us without giving us any chance to run away from it. We just have to deal with it. That's one thing. And second, nobody among us, knows his or her own faith. So uh, I think this is time for people to uh, not just for believers, for any human beings, to contemplate to contemplate about the meaning of their existence. So if you just live to enjoy living, then what do you do in this situation? You it's just so limited opportunity for you to have joy outside. But you can find joy here if you know that there is something more than just this physical reality, beyond this physical reality, which is our spiritual reality, our connection with God. If you know that and you engage with that, well, the way we experience, we can find joy there
But
in any situation.
how do people come to that faith? How do they come to that knowledge? Most people have rejected God and religion because they haven't had that experience. So how in these corona times can
Mhm.
people rediscover a faith that they lost or a faith that they never had?
Well, they can just go inside. You can, you may not necessarily have to come to believing in God at the end, but if you just look into yourself and your situation, your existence, the meaning of your presence in this world, and your connection with other people, you know, you have to find more than just the physical meaning of everything. There must be more. But if not, then your life just ends here. Well, you're still alive. You're not dead yet. So you have to find something. And if you are willing, truly willing to find more about life within yourself, then there must be uh, uh, very significant for you, to continue living in this situation and after this.
So the thread that I hear that's running through your entire sharing tonight is inwardness. It's inwardness that you've been cultivating as the response to a personal relationship. And what you're telling people, you didn't, when I asked you how do people find faith, you didn't say, go look at the stars. You said, go inside yourself. So an invitation to interiority, introspection, meditation, and it's this interior movement that you have been practicing to get stronger in your relationship, and that you're inviting others to take up as part of the spiritual response and discovering the faith to overcome the fear. Is this a correct summary?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Does this also address another question that we've been looking at, the question of the various losses that people lose? Because we've been looking at the question of it's starting to get better. People are going to have a lot of financial loss. They've lost lives. There's a lot that people are losing and losing and losing. So how does faith help us to address that loss? How does going internally help me deal with loss?
Well, losing is inevitable. To some point, everybody will lose something anytime, with or without corona. People die with or without corona, and you lose money, you lose job with or without corona, and so forth. So now, again, this is something that we cannot avoid. We have to deal with, and first we have to find strength within ourselves, and then second, we need to find a way to strive collectively in this situation. See, I am told by doctors and medical experts that if we can conduct our relationship in certain parameters, then there is opportunity that we can still engage with other people safely. Now, what we need now is then more sense of togetherness, because we are not alone in this situation. We are in a hardship, but many others in the same situation too. Now, we need to find a way to help each other. So, because if you ask about how religion can help with this situation, I think helping each other also a core value in every religion, including Islam. So this is time for us to think about how we can we can find a way to raise, uh, uh, you know, togetherness, help each other in this situation.
So here's my synthetic summary of Yahya's theology.
Mm-hmm.
It goes like this.
Mm-hmm.
Religion happens on the within. It also happens collectively outside, but true religion happens within. When it happens within, we encounter God. That gives us faith. But that place of faith also gives us greater human solidarity, and that human solidarity extends beyond our collective identity, and it's universal. So actually going into yourself is the most universal move. And therefore, by discovering God within you, you gain the strength, but you also gain the motivation to help other people practically. And therefore, it becomes the solidarity that helps people address the practical challenges, including the loss. This is it. How does this translate into a vision for the future? In other words, because you started out by saying the world needs to change, and Corona is an opportunity for change. Do you see the world changing in this direction? In other words, does the day after Corona look like the vision that I just described? A world of would this be a fair description of how you see tomorrow's world? Tell us, what is your vision for a future world in light of the themes of this conversation?
See, look at the situation, let's say, if you think about the economic consequences of this Corona situation, right? This something that happens globally. So, for example, America cannot save alone if other countries, do not save from the economic consequences. Indonesia is the same. Israel and other, countries cannot save because this is a global problem. We need to deal with it globally and in a global cooperation. So this must raise an awareness for everybody globally, for decision makers, for political activists, and so forth, to think about this global humanity, as an unavoidable togetherness. We are in the same faith together. Nobody can save alone. If we want to save ourselves, we have to save others. It's just, the reality. So I would hope that in the future, this will reflect more in our civilizational life.
That's very clear. Corona, an invitation to global solidarity, to a global humanity. That's very clear.
Yeah.
I think this has been. I think we've come to the point where we've seen an entire worldview encapsulated through this sharing. A very beautiful, a very inspiring one. Islamically contextual and at the same time of universal significance. What I'd like to do by way of concluding this interview, and I don't know if we can, I very often invite people at the end of the interview to share a prayer. But since the theme has been so much to go inwards and to go inwards and to go into meditation, maybe instead of inviting you to share a prayer, I could invite you to take us on a 5-minute exercise of going internally to find that relationship with God, either through prayer or a guided meditation or something that you could share with others so they have a path to follow after this theoretical sharing we've had.
Okay, see, here's the thing. With this Corona situation, it's not just that you have the risk to have the disease, but there is a risk that you put other people. If you have the disease, then you put other people, in danger. So it's like, first, you cannot save alone here from this situation, and you cannot put others in danger because of this. So we have to find a way. This is um, something that we need to strive first. That um, actually we uh, we cannot uh, deny our need to connect to others, but we need to solve the problem when uh, there are barriers uh, blocking our connection with others. Now, it is time for us uh, to first raise awareness within ourselves about uh, our need for others, and then to think together with others a way to keep uh, uh, you know togetherness, helping each other, to caring of each others. So there are, of course, obstacles here, but I would say there's still a way to do it. What we need is just more courage, to do what it is to do, and more discipline in, uh, sticking on the parameters in our conduct of engagement with others.
But you gave us this particular perspective now in response to my request for a prayer or a meditation. So do I understand from you that you see the time of prayer and meditation as a time of overcoming obstacles that make us separate from others and discovering our greater connectivity to other through prayer? Is this what you're saying?
Yes, that comes to our prayer also. We cannot. This is if you are a believer, now you know that you cannot just pray for your own self. You have to pray for everybody, because again, you cannot save from this situation alone. If we are to save from the situation, we have to save together. So in our prayer, we need to pray for everybody, for all humanity, not just for ourselves or for Muslims only, for example, but for all humanity. But Muslims certainly cannot save alone as a as a group without others, safe also.
So please lead us in either prayer or some process that allows everyone to go internally with this vision.
Yeah, yeah. I would. My prayer would be like this. Oh Allah, please lift from us all our fellow human beings this hardship and this uh, situation that put hardship on us, and save us all uh, from this situation. Something like that. Amen.
Amen.
And actually, we do that kind of prayer every day in our daily prayer.
Just this kind of a text.
Yeah, yeah.
So the point being the universal awareness.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, Pak Yahya, this is a very inspiring message for Ramadan, this global awareness grounded in the depth of the heart that knows God. I wish for you and for your community and for your movement and for your country and for your religion and for the whole world to come to this realization. And I wish you Ramadan Mubarak, and may your words bear fruit in the hearts of all those who have watched our conversation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.